Many years ago, in a peaceful neighborhood on the outskirts of Abuja, there lived a woman named Nkem. Everyone in her estate knew her for one thing: she never stopped praising her husband. Whether it was at the supermarket, during evening strolls, or even in church, Nkem's lips were constantly singing Toby's praises. Toby, my king. Toby, my gift from heaven. Toby, the only good man left in Nigeria, she would say. People around her were used to hearing it so much that it became like background music in the estate. Even the day she was rushed to the clinic with a fever, she managed to whisper to the nurse, "Please give me the drip quickly, my husband can't stand to see me in pain." The nurse had looked at her with mild confusion, then smiled and shook her head. Nkem was head over heels and she wasn't shy about it. To be fair, Toby was handsome, tall, dark-skinned, with a clean-shaven look and a confident walk. He had the charm of a Nollywood heartthrob and he knew it. Most people would say he looked like someone who could easily be a player, but that wasn't how Nkem saw him. On social media, she posted pictures of their dinner dates, matching Ankara outfits, beach trips, and luxury outings. Her captions were filled with lines like, "My peace in a noisy world," or "My covering, my safe place, my God-sent husband." If love was a competition, Nkem was clearly winning. But as the neighbors watched her perfect online love story, some couldn't help but exchange knowing glances. "She's in love, but she's also blind," they would say behind her back. Nkem's best friend, Ifeoma, had known Toby long before the marriage. One evening while they were drinking zobo in Nkem's living room, she looked at her friend and sighed. "Nkem, you need to calm down with all this praise. Oh, Toby is not the angel you think he is." Nkem scoffed. "Haba. What are you saying?" But Ifeoma pressed on. "I know him. I knew him before you even dated. Look at his circle of friends, Kioka and the rest. All of them are womanizers. How can your husband be different from his crew? Tell me. Just shine your eyes, I beg." Nkem laughed out loud, waved her hand and leaned back on the couch like she had just heard a bad joke. "Ifeoma, you're just bitter. I don't blame you. If men have been using you to play football, I understand. But my Toby? He's not like that." Nkem's tone was sharp. "Let me tell you something. The way you talk, it's clear you've been hurt badly. Your ex cheated, the one before that also cheated. That's your reality. But don't transfer your heartbreak to me. My husband is different. He's faithful. He's kind. He's the best man in this entire country, and I say that with my chest." Ifeoma sighed deeply, knowing this conversation was going nowhere. "Just be careful," she whispered. But Nkem was not listening anymore. "You're just jealous because your own love story crashed and burned. But mine is working and it will keep working, God willing. Please don't poison my mind with your bitterness." From that day on, Nkem began to distance herself from Ifeoma. She stopped returning calls, stopped visiting, and gradually pushed her friend out of her life. What Nkem didn't know was that Toby was a master of the double life. By day he was her gentle, attentive husband. He would help her zip her dress, drop sweet compliments about her hair, kiss her forehead and call her my queen. But by night Toby would whisper, "Babe, I have a meeting with the guys tonight, so I'll be home late. Don't wait up." And then he would disappear into the night, heading to a hidden apartment in Wetu, a place his wife didn't even know existed. The apartment was a fully furnished hideout that he shared with a group of married friends who called themselves the Brotherhood. Each time Toby arrived there, the music was already playing, drinks flowed freely, and girls in revealing outfits were lounging around. They laughed, danced, and behaved like overgrown teenagers. Toby's friends believed in a twisted theory: side chicks make you a better husband. And Toby? He believed it too fully. Each man in the Brotherhood had his own designated corner in the Wetu apartment. Toby's was the back room. He called it the comfort zone. That's where he entertained his ladies, sometimes one, other times two, and occasionally even three at once. But what made Toby even more dangerous than the rest was that he had side chicks in nearly every state in Nigeria. From Calabar to Katsina, Benin to Bayelsa, you name it, he had one waiting. Every time he traveled for work, he added another to the list. And the most shocking part? He kept a notebook in his car glove compartment with all their names and birthdays so he wouldn't forget. Meanwhile, back home, Nkem continued her praise singing, blind to the whole mess. Even when neighbors dropped subtle hints, Nkem would brush them off. "My husband doesn't even like women," she would say proudly. "He avoids conversations with strange ladies. He tells me all the time, I have everything I need at home." Her voice was always full of confidence and admiration. She would tell people, "If you knew the kind of man I married, you would cry tears of joy." Her words were laced with conviction, and it made her untouchable in arguments. Friends eventually gave up trying to talk sense into her. They would just nod and let her talk. She has chosen to be blind, they'd say behind her back. But to Kim, their silence meant they finally understood her joy. One evening while they were eating spaghetti at their glass dining table, Kim smiled at her husband. "Babe, you won't believe who called me again, guess." Toby looked up and shrugged. "Who?" "Ifioma," she replied with a chuckle. "That girl won't let me rest. She called to say she saw you with some woman at was market. Said you were in a compromising position." Toby dropped his fork and laughed. "Jobless people," he scoffed. "Maybe I was walking behind someone and she created fake drama in her head." "Me? With another woman? Please. Who is that woman? What does she have that my wife doesn't?" He reached over and touched Nkem's hand. "Have they even seen you before? You're top tier, babe. Ignore Ifioma. She just wants to cause trouble." Nkem giggled. "That's what I told her. I told her that my husband only has eyes for me. I'm his queen, his world, the apple of his eye." She leaned forward and added with a whisper, "They just want to break us. But they'll fail." Toby smiled, squeezed her hand and said, "My love, thank you for always trusting me. I promise I will never bring shame to you." Nkem looked at him wide-eyed and glowing. She believed every word. What she didn't know was that shame and disgrace were already putting on their heels and marching toward her doorstep with speed. Toby's brotherhood was made up of 6 married men, all living in luxury, all successful, and all carrying double lives like it was an Olympic sport. The Wetu apartment was their sanctuary. On the outside it looked like a regular serviced apartment. But inside it was anything but. With a giant flat-screen TV, imported drinks, fake business folders lying around to fool anyone who barged in, and neatly decorated rooms, the place was their sin palace. The real activities happened upstairs. Each man had a coded room. Toby's door had a small plaque labeled Z1, short for Zaddy 1. Every Friday and Saturday night, the men met, drank, danced, and entertained girls. None of their wives ever suspected a thing. Toby had crafted stories for every girl he brought. He told Ada that he was lonely in his marriage. To Esther, he said his wife had grown cold and too career-focused. To another girl, he claimed Nkem was overweight and had stopped trying to look attractive. His favorite line was, "You're the only one who understands me." Every lady had a different sob story carefully tailored. And they believed him. Sometimes he sent Nkem photos edited to look like he was at a board meeting. Suit, tie, professional background. But in reality, the photos were taken in the Wetu apartment, right in the Brotherhood's den of lies. Toby would return home from his escapades carrying gifts. Perfume, dresses, flowers. He'd rub Nkem's feet and say, "You're my world, the best thing that ever happened to me." And Nkem? She'd smile like a teenager in love. She'd post him on Instagram with captions like, "My best gift from God," or 7 years of peace and 100 more to go. Her delusion was complete. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood had strict rules. Never bring the same girl more than twice a week, never let girls know each other, never use your real name, and under no condition should your wife ever find out about the apartment. But rules, as always, were made to be broken. One Friday, Edwin, the loudest of the Brotherhood, was hosting. Edwin was the risk-taker. He liked trouble, liked drama, and loved new women. That night, he picked up a random girl off the street. Her name was Naomi. She was breathtakingly beautiful but had a sharp mouth and a short fuse. The moment she walked into the house, she didn't greet anyone. She walked straight to the fridge, grabbed a can of malt, and started drinking like she owned the place. Edwin hissed under his breath and whispered to her, "Babe, show small respect now. Greet my guys at least." Naomi rolled her eyes and hissed louder. "If you no like me, a beg carry me go back to where you see me," she snapped. "I no beg you. Now you see me, now you like wettin' you see, so a beg free me." The other men exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable. Toby leaned over and said, "Edwin, where you pick this one from now?" Edwin just shrugged. "A beg leave am. She go calm down soon." But Naomi didn't calm down. A few minutes later, Edwin tried to touch her and she slapped his hand away. "No touch me anyhow," she barked. Edwin raised his voice, "Why I carry you come here if you no one gree?" Naomi shouted back. The argument grew louder. Words turned into insults. Then insults became slaps. And just like that, chaos erupted. In a flash, Naomi grabbed a broken bottle from the table and stabbed Edwin in the neck. Blood gushed everywhere. Edwin collapsed on the floor, gasping. The entire room froze. The girl screamed and bolted. The other men jumped the fence and fled. Toby stood still, his brain unable to process what had just happened. One moment they were drinking and laughing. The next, Edwin was bleeding out on the tile floor. Naomi dropped the bottle and ran. But Toby, he was too shocked to move. Within 30 minutes, police had arrived. The music was still playing faintly in the background when the officers stepped into the bloody room. Toby was the only one left behind. A stern police officer stepped forward. "Is this your house?" he asked, eyes scanning the chaotic room. Toby nodded slowly, barely able to speak. Yes, it's under my name, but I didn't kill him. I swear I didn't." The officer didn't flinch. "So you're saying this man just stood up and stabbed himself?" Before Toby could reply, the handcuffs clicked shut. "You're under arrest. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court." The officers dragged him out. That night, Abuja buzzed with the breaking news. Married man arrested after a lady murders friend in secret lodge. It was everywhere, on Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, gossip blogs. Phones were lighting up all over the city. Nkem was at home that evening, sitting in the living room painting her nails. She was humming to herself, unaware of the storm that had just erupted. Her neighbor burst through the front gate, panting. "Nkem, check online. Your husband, he's trending." Nkem rolled her eyes, annoyed. "Again? What lie are people telling this time?" She opened her phone casually, expecting another silly rumor. But the moment she saw Toby's face in handcuffs plastered all over social media, her heart dropped. She clicked on the video and heard the reporter's voice. The apartment, located in Wetu, is allegedly used by a secret group of married men to entertain side chicks. One man has died. The house is registered under Mr. Toby Adesanya. Nkem screamed and collapsed before the video could even finish. Her phone flew across the floor. When she woke up, she was surrounded by her sisters, her pastor's wife, and even Ifeoma, the same friend she had pushed away. Her eyes were swollen from tears. Her body trembled as the weight of reality hit her. Toby wasn't the man she thought he was. The internet was mocking her. People shared her old Instagram posts where she had written, "My Toby is the only faithful man left in Nigeria." Now they were using her words against her. See her motivational quotes. Now see her disgrace. One comment read. The humiliation was unbearable. WhatsApp groups, church forums, and neighborhood gossip channels exploded. Ah, this life in, so this was the perfect husband? See how she was always calling him king. Now look. Even people from Nkem's church dug up her posts and began mocking her. One post read, "Marrying Toby was the best decision of my life." Now it was being turned into memes. Nkem felt like the ground should open and swallow her whole. But the police weren't done. They announced that Naomi, the girl who stabbed Edwin, had given a fake name and ID. She had no traceable family or background. So as far as the law was concerned, the crime happened in a house legally tied to Toby. He would remain in custody until proven otherwise. While Toby sat in a police cell, his thoughts heavy and his reputation shattered, Nkem sat in her living room, surrounded by pitying faces. What hurt her most wasn't just the betrayal, it was the mockery, the public shame, and the memory of how Toby had always condemned cheating men. That one that married second wife? Nonsense man, she remembered him saying once. How can a grown man be keeping side chicks? All this time, the man she trusted with her life was doing the exact things he condemned. It was like being stabbed by your own shadow. People even began using her story during women's meetings. One neighborhood auntie warned the younger wives, "Stop doing husband and wife Olympics online. You don't know the man you sleep beside." Days passed. Nkem could barely sleep. She replayed everything in her mind. The late nights. The strange perfume in the car. The suspicious missed calls saved under names like Uche Electrician and Maka Delivery. She even remembered one morning when she saw curly hair on the bed. She didn't own curly extensions, but she convinced herself it must have been hers. Now, every ignored sign returned like thunder. How could I have been this foolish? She cried one night. How did I not see it? She felt like a clown in her own story, not just betrayed, but humiliated by her own blindness. That night, only one person stayed with her, her friend Ifeoma. As the house emptied and the night grew quiet, Nkem looked at her through tired eyes. "I should have listened to you," she whispered. "I'm sorry, Ifeoma." Ifeoma squeezed her hand gently. "Don't worry. This is not the time for, 'I told you so.' Just rest. I'm here now. No lectures. No judgment. Just silent, steady support." And that night, for the first time in days, Nkem slept, curled up on the couch like a broken doll, while her friend watched over her like a guardian. 2 days later there was a twist. The police retrieved CCTV footage from the Wetu Apartments compound. One of the cameras had a clear shot of Naomi's face as she entered the building with Edwin. Her photo was released to the public. Within 48 hours, it was on every news site, every blog, every phone screen in the country. Naomi was finally found trying to sneak out of the country through Benin. She was arrested on the spot and flown back to Abuja. In her confession, she admitted to stabbing Edwin and declared that Toby had nothing to do with it. Just like that, the tide began to turn. With Naomi's confession, Toby was released. But he didn't come home to celebration. He came home to silence. Nkem opened the door when he arrived. No hug. No tears. No words. She just stepped aside and let him walk in. He paused in the hallway, dropped his bag and whispered, "I'm sorry, Nkem. I'm so sorry." She said nothing. Her eyes were dry. Her heart, empty. The house felt different. The air was heavy. Everything was quiet, cold, and unfamiliar. The once warm home now felt like a museum, beautiful but lifeless. They ate at separate times. They slept at opposite edges of the bed. The TV was always off. The radio silent. The house was full of soundless screaming. Toby tried to apologize. Again and again. "Please, Nkem, talk to me. Just yell, insult me, anything. Don't just go silent." But she would only nod or shake her head. Sometimes she smiled faintly, like a ghost remembering an old joke. She didn't even ask where he was going anymore. She didn't touch his phone. Didn't wait up for him at night. Didn't check his messages. And worst of all, she didn't cry. Because there was nothing left to cry about. Inside, Nkem was numb. A part of her had died. Her trust had collapsed like a house built on sand. Even though Toby had returned, she knew he wasn't the same man she thought she married. "You're only sorry because you got caught," she said one night when he tried to hold her hand. "If Naomi hadn't stabbed Edwin, would I even know about the other you?" Toby tried to defend himself, but his voice cracked. He had no good answers, only guilt. "I messed up," he whispered. "Please, let's start again." But Nkem just shook her head. They became flatmates, living under the same roof but miles apart. Toby would knock softly on her door at night and ask, "Can I come in?" Sometimes she'd say yes. Other times she wouldn't answer. But even when she let him in, he could feel it. Her soul was far away. One night, unable to bear the tension, Toby stood at the doorway, tears in his eyes. "Please, just one last chance. Let's start over." Nkem looked up at him calmly. "One last chance, to do what, Toby? To cheat smarter? To lie better?" He said nothing. She continued, "You didn't just break my trust. You shattered something inside me." She stood up, walked past him, and whispered as she opened the door to leave the room, "I don't even think you realize how much damage you've done. And I don't think I have the strength to rebuild what we had. Not anymore." The door closed softly behind her. That night, Toby sat on the edge of the bed, staring into space. No noise. No words. Just silence and regret. Nkem, on the other hand, stared out the window, watching as night swallowed the sky. The marriage was over, but the pain would linger like smoke after a fire. Weeks passed. Friends stopped asking questions. Neighbors stopped gossiping. Even Instagram forgot about the scandal. But Nkem? She hadn't forgotten. She walked through life like someone carrying a glass heart with cracks all over it. At work she smiled. At church she sang. But at home she was empty. The love she once shouted about, she now buried. The man she once worshipped, she now treated like a stranger. And no matter how many times Toby apologized, bought gifts, or wrote notes, nothing worked. It was like throwing pebbles at a mountain, hoping it would fall. Toby stayed because he still believed he could fix it. But Nkem stayed because she had nowhere else to go. They lived in the same house but on different planets. Every time he walked past her, he would look into her eyes, hoping for something, pity, love, even hate. But he got nothing. Her eyes were blank, distant, cold. Then one evening, as they both sat in silence over a plate of untouched food, Toby finally asked, "Will you ever forgive me?" Nkem didn't even look at him. She simply said, "Maybe. But forgiving you doesn't mean I'll ever trust you again." And that was the most honest sentence spoken in their house since everything fell apart. One evening, after washing her hair and wrapping it in a scarf, Nkem stood in front of the mirror and stared at herself. Her eyes were tired. Her face had lost its usual glow. She looked older, like someone who had lived 10 lifetimes in just a few months. That night, she walked into the living room where Toby was dozing off on the couch. She sat opposite him and said softly, "I don't hate you, Toby. I don't know who you are anymore. And the version I thought I knew doesn't exist." Toby sat up, startled by her words. But I'm still your husband, he said, his voice cracking. Kem shook her head. You're a stranger who wears my husband's face. In the days that followed, Kem began to find her strength again, not because she forgave Toby but because she chose to focus on herself. She started jogging every morning. She joined a book club. She went out with friends she hadn't seen in years. Slowly she was coming back to life. Toby watched her with a mixture of awe and regret. She was rising, and he was no longer part of her story. One night, she handed him an envelope. Inside was a letter. This is not revenge. It's clarity, the letter read. I stayed long enough to understand that love is not blindness. I'm choosing me. Toby sat on the bed that night holding the letter, tears sliding down his face. He remembered their wedding day, how she had danced into his arms, how she had whispered, "Forever, my love." But now, forever had ended. He couldn't argue. He couldn't beg. He had broken the one person who saw the world in him. Kem didn't shout. She didn't slam the door. She simply packed a few clothes, kissed her sleeping child goodnight, and walked away from a marriage that had died long before the world knew. She left the house not in anger but in quiet resolve. In the months that followed, life moved on. Toby remained in the same house, emptier, colder, lonelier. The brotherhood disbanded. Naomi was sentenced. Edwin was buried. The newspapers stopped talking. The gossip blogs moved on to new scandals. But in Kem? She became her own woman. Stronger. Wiser. She stopped blaming herself. She stopped crying at night. She even stopped checking Toby's social media. It was over. The heartbreak didn't destroy her, it transformed her. She became the kind of woman she wished she had been from the start, one who trusted herself more than she trusted a man. One quiet evening, Nkem uploaded a short video on her YouTube channel. Her face was calm, her tone gentle. Hi besties, it's your favorite storyteller. Thanks for watching this far, she said with a smile. But let me ask, if your friend's spouse was cheating, would you tell them? Or would you stay out of it? Also, do you think a marriage can survive betrayal? And finally, do you really trust your partner 100%? Or have you left space for disappointment? She paused. Think about it. Then she smiled wider. Till next time, stay wise, stay strong, and never stop choosing yourself. Bye. And with that, she ended the video, and the chapter.